What's up guys, today we're going to be ranking the best vocal IEMs at each price range, and starting at around $20 we have the Tantrum Zero Ultima 3.5 or DSP version. If you're looking for something that's a little bit warmer, a little bit thicker, and just has more body to the notes, better for male vocals, then the 3.5 version is very good with the extra bit of mid bass. Really helps the male vocals to have more power and just like body behind it, and the extra bit of extension in the treble and the upper mids helps to balance out the extra thickness without it being overly congested. And if you're willing to mess around with the EQ settings, then the DSP version is very good in terms of versatility and variety. Aside from the extra mid bass, you also get something that's a little more balanced, a little bit cleaner. You get a little bit more forward in the upper mids. The vocals pop out a little bit more. It becomes better for female vocals. The female artists sound a bit sweeter, less husky, and just cleaner overall. So if you're willing to mess around, the DSP is very good in terms of value. But if you don't really care about DSP and you still want something that's clean but a little bit more forward, then the SIMGOT EW100P 3.5 version is very good in terms of that. It has just enough low end to not sound thin and unnatural in the vocals, but it has that extra bit of extension in the upper mids. The vocals pop out a little bit more. The treble isn't like overly airy or sparkly. It follows a good, like treble extension, but it's not over boosted. It does a very good job if you want something that's clean and balanced. Then at around $35, my recommendation for an all-rounder vocal performer would be the CCA Trio in the configuration that has less bass. The less low end in this tuning configuration really allows the upper mids to kind of pop out, kind of like the EW100, but with a little bit more resolution, a little bit more air in the treble. And overall, if you're looking for something that's clean but still pretty forward in the vocals, then the CCA Trio in that configuration is a very good set. But on the other hand, if you want something cleaner, very good, very sweet for female vocals, then the Tantrum Ola is my pick for that. It's pretty much dead neutral in the low end, and because of that, the bass doesn't get in the way of the upper mids. The female artists just sound very extended, very sweet, very powerful. It can get a little bit forward in the vocals, but as a mid volume set, I personally didn't find any issues with like fatigue or anything like that. It just sounds very good in the female vocals at this price. Then at around $50, we have the KZ Zenith for an all-rounder vocal pick. This is just a better version of the CCA Trio. The drivers are slightly better. The overall sound is a little bit smoother. It's not as fatiguing in the upper mids. It has that cut in the 3 to 6K region, and overall you still get the extension without being congested because there's not that much low end, which is good if you want something that's like more vocal centric. The layering and soundstage is also really good for the price. It's very natural. It doesn't do anything wrong. The only downside is that it is KZ, right? But like it does scale very well as well, and for the price I would say it's one of the better all-rounder sets for vocals. Now if you want something warmer and thicker, then I would recommend the Confine Clean. This is also similar to the Zenith, but just it has like more low end. It's pretty smooth in the treble as well, but now you just get more mid bass, more sub bass. It makes the male vocals sound a little bit huskier. It's not as clean and clear as the Zenith, but if you're looking for something that's more male focused, this does fit that criteria better. It has more body, it has more no weight, it feels a little bit thicker in the good kind of way, right? And overall I would say this strikes a good balance between too bassy and too thick and just enough extension to the vocals. But if you're looking for a female vocal set, then the Tangzu Yixuanji is very good for that. It's airy, it's sweet, it's clean, there's a lot of clarity to the notes. Obviously it's not gonna have that same amount of like body thickness as the Clean or even the Zenith. If you're looking for something that's just a little bit different, a little bit lighter in the no weight, a little bit like more, I guess, like angelic, then the Yixuanji would be a very good pick. Next, at around $80, my pick for a vocal all-rounder would be the Tantrum 4U. In this configuration, the 4U is very well balanced. The extra little bit of mid bass gives that a little bit fullness to the vocals, and the upper mids are also pretty well extended, so it doesn't do anything wrong. It's very well balanced. And if you're looking for something warmer, it also has the switch that boosts the bass. Works pretty good for male vocals. And similarly, the Magic One on sale is also very good for male vocals. The extra boost when it comes to the mid bass really helps male vocals to have more huskiness, more like power, no weight, and just like a little bit more warmness without it being overly congested or nasally, because there is enough extension in the upper mids and the treble as well. Then if you want something cleaner, the Tangzu HUB Xuanyu is very good for that. It's basically a clean version of Harman. It's pretty smooth, it's non-fatiguing. It's a relaxing sweet listen. I would say it's good for female vocals. It's not gonna really pop out in terms of dynamics because overall it's pretty smooth. But if you're looking for something just like clean, the Xuanyu is still a solid option. Now, as for some honorable mentions, I personally like the EA500LM because my unit isn't overly boosted when it comes to the treble, so the extra bit of treble gives it that sparkliness to the female vocals, and it works very good for female vocals and male vocals. But I understand some people's unit is a little bit like over boosted, hence why the honorable mention. And another honorable mention would be the Lecture DZ4. This is more of a scaling set. I wouldn't really recommend it at like low to mid volume because it just sounds a bit anemic. But if you're willing to crank it up, these scale very well, and it just like becomes very immersive. The vocals pop out a little bit more. It's like a neutral, slightly forward vocal listening at higher volumes. But at around $150 for an all-rounder set, my recommendation would still be the C Audio Yume Original. These are just like the de facto, like balanced, well-rounded, you know, fairly neutral. Now these aren't gonna specialize when it comes to male or female vocals, but it's very balanced, it's clean, it has good extension in the treble and the vocals, it's smooth, it's non-fatiguing, and it doesn't do anything wrong. It's just a good benchmark if you're looking for like an all-rounder vocal set. You can also go for the Truthier Novas as an all-rounder, but personally I like the Yume OGs a little bit more because it just feels less like Harman, and the vocals pop out a little bit more because it's just less Harman, it's less bass, there's less treble versus the Nova. It's just a little bit more mid-centric. But if you are looking for something a little bit warmer that's better for male vocals but still very extended when it comes to just like how forward and powerful the vocals are, then the Simga IEMS XL is great for this. First of all, it's just very smooth. You're not going to get any fatigue or like sharpness of the vocals, and also the extra little bit of mid bass and low end helps to give that more body to, you know, male vocals, but it's not going to get husky or congested because the upper mids are well extended as well. As for female vocals, I would recommend the Chopin if you can get it on sale for around $160, which is doable. These are just very well balanced, clean. It doesn't have the extra mid bass from the EM6L, but it also has the extension as well, and a little bit more boost in the treble versus like, you know, regular Harman. An honorable mention here would be the Lecture DX1. This is actually my favorite at like under $200, but I don't know the price yet because they haven't released the price. It should be from like 120 to 170 allegedly, so it has the dynamics but it's not fatiguing. It's like natural, immersive, but also has a lot of like vocal contrast. It's got a full low end backed by very dynamic upper harmonics, and the vocals pop out just enough at higher volume. You do need to scale this a little bit, but I think it's worth it if you scale it. Next, at under $300, my pick for an all-rounder set would be the EPZ P50. These have just the right amount of low end of treble, allows the upper mids, the vocal to pop out just enough. I would consider these more neutral than, I guess, like, you know, bassy all-rounder or whatever, but these just very clean, very clear, very natural vocal presentation. I would definitely recommend this if you need like an all-rounder vocal set. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit warmer and better for male vocals, the Tantrum Origin is very good for that. The extra boost in the mid bass really allows the male vocals to sound more powerful, fuller, just like more body behind the notes, but the extension in the upper mids are just enough to balance out the extra mid bass. It's not going to sound congested or like husky or overly like warm and thick. It's very natural but slightly warm, which is perfect for male vocals. On the other hand, if you're looking for something for female vocals, I would recommend the Condensa 4. These are just very clean, very clear, airy, smooth. You get a little bit sparkle to the female vocals as well. The extra little bit of like foreignness in the vocals help the, you know, the female artist to pop out. So the combination of a little bit sparkliness, the airiness and smoothness makes it very enjoyable for female vocals. But if you're looking for more low end but still very good female vocals, I would half recommend the Simga EA1000s. This would be the honorable mention because of like unit variance, I just can't fully recommend it. But if you get a good unit like mine, it's very vibrant, it's very dynamic, it's sparkly, the extension is there, it's not overly fatiguing. I would say the amount of energy you get is perfect. It is a little bit like extra boosted in the treble, but my unit is perfectly fine. Some people's are just a little bit bright, so because of that, half recommendation. Then when it comes to scaling, the Zigat Lush is a very lush listen. It's very smooth, it's extended, it's just like, you know, well balanced. You get a little bit of extra air, a little bit of warmness. It's just like a very well balanced, like smooth listen at higher volumes. Very good, but you do need to crank these up because at mid to lower volumes, it is a bit anemic. I wouldn't really recommend it at that listening volume. But once you crank these, they become very musical and just like very no-brainer for those who listen loud. Next, at $500, my all-rounder vocal set would be the Soft Ear Studio 4. These just have the right amount of everything. Basically, it has enough vocals. The low end is actually surprisingly good for like a BA set. It feels like very bassy for what you get. And then the treble is also well extended. It's just a good all-rounder. It doesn't do anything special. I would say it's not like specialized any male or female vocals. But if you want something that just works with every genre, then the Studio 4 is a solid option. On the other hand, if you're looking for something that's a little bit warmer and thicker, better for male vocals, but also scales very well 2-in-1, then I would recommend the Sophier's Volume S in the stock configuration. This just sounds very natural, very full, powerful vocals, extended once you give it enough like volume, and it's just a very immersive playback because you are listening louder as well, and overall it's just very nice. But my personal favorite would be the Zigad Arcanus. They just sound the most unique. It has that extra bite in the vocals, and the vocals are like a little bit forward, but not like overly like, you know, in your face and shouty, but the bite is just enough as well, so you get like, you just get hit by so much goosebumps. These work especially well when it comes to female vocals because of that extra like extension in the treble, like an extra bite to the consonants. It just sounds extended, powerful, but just the right amount of intimacy at like slightly higher volumes, and it's just more unique than all of these sets that I've listened to so far, and I would even put this like one of my favorites under $1,000. But speaking of $1,000, my pick here for an all-rounder sound would probably be the original Theaudio Oracles. These are just the most balanced, cleanest, you know, they're very smooth. My analogy for this has always been, it's kind of like a clean river in spring. It's just very balanced, but sometimes it could be a little bit boring because it's just like too smooth, not that dynamic compared to some other stuff like the Arcanus, for example. I would personally take the Arcanus over the original Oracles, but if we're talking about like overall just like the most like balanced and clean and, you know, traditional vocal set, then the OG Oracles would probably edge it out a little bit more, plus the ESTs help with it being like a little bit smoother as well. Another all-rounder to the Oracles would be the Monarch Mark IIs. These just are very well balanced, they're clean, they have very good clarity, very good resolution. It's just very well-rounded, very good for most genres. I don't know what else to say. Now, if you don't want something that's just completely clean water, I would recommend the Lecture Mystic 8. These are probably the best female vocals that I've heard this year. It's just very clean, very sweet, but it has dynamics, extra air, extra sparkliness on top of that clean and natural playback, which is why I like it more than the Oracles, because it is more dynamic and more sparkly. These also scale decently well with the Senkai tips, and they are like a better version of the Divas in my opinion. It's a little bit fuller when it comes to male vocals, it's a little better balanced, it doesn't have, you know, the QC issues that I had, that a lot of people have with Elysian IEMs. You still get the same like sparkliness, extension detail, and just like airiness in the vocals from the treble, but now it's just like it scales better as well. So if you want female vocals, definitely give these a try. Now on the other hand, if you're looking for the best male vocals, I still think the Ars-5 or the Sophier's Twilight, either one of those are very good when it comes to male vocals. I like the Ars-5 a little bit more because I like my vocals to be a bit more powerful, a little bit more forward, and the Ars-5 is just less warm, less thick than these, you know, Twilight. But if you like something thicker for male vocals, a little bit more relaxing, a little bit warmer, then obviously the Twilight is still very good. As for some honorable mentions, if you can get these, get these. I would recommend the original EJ07s, the original Dark Magicians. Very good for scaling. The EJ07, obviously a scaling set. It's just like it takes you on a journey, you forget about the music. And then the OG Dark Magicians are less forward than the EJ07s, but they are a little bit fuller, but they are still very immersive. So both of them are just immersive scaling sets that you just can't get anymore. But if you can't find them on like the used market for like a decent price, then finally moving up to the Summit Fi Endgame, top of the top IEMs, I actually don't recommend any of these when it comes to vocals alone. These are very good like all-rounders. For example, you got the Cat 12, you have like the newer Kanira stuff, you have the Mess, you have the, you know, Valhalla, the Symphonium stuff. Those are all very good, technically very good all-rounders, but I don't recommend for vocals because the diminishing returns is just astronomical. Like for example, when it comes to male vocals, the Ars-5 is still like top of the line. They're more side grades. I wouldn't say they do anything better. It's just slightly more different. And if you're gonna pay $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, right, for something that does like a side grade that might not even be as good as something that's like $500, like $700, then you probably shouldn't get it. The only set that I can say for sure is objectively slightly better than the $1,000 set is the Satonic Storm, but that's like $5,000, $6,000. You can't get the current batch, you gotta wait for the next batch. and that's gonna be like 6K. And compared to the Mystic 8, the direct upgrade to the Mystic 8 would be the Storm. The Storm is slightly better. It's like 10% better, but you're paying for like $5,000 more for 10% better, right? So I don't know if that's worth it. Maybe if you're balling out, like maybe that doesn't matter to you. You like collecting IEMs, sure, go for the Storm. It is very good. I heard it. I recommend it. I mean, I don't recommend it, but like, it's good. It's very good, right? But for $5,000 more, I think it's a hard sell, especially considering how good the Mystic 8 already is. So yeah, that's the list. If you are interested in the more like expensive sub, do try it before you actually buy it. Go to CanJam, go to demo it. Like, make sure you listen to it first before you actually buy it, because a lot of them are just very quirky, I would say, in the tuning. It's not something that people can just like blind buy. You have to like really like that specific flavor to kind of buy it, and then the rest is just like all-rounders. But yeah, aside from that, I hope this list was helpful. You really don't need to go past $1,000. I think that's a perfect spot to stop if you want a quote-unquote end game vocal IEM. There's not really anything that outcompetes it noticeably past that price. More side grades, like unless you go for the Storm, but that's like $5,000, right? So aside from that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Shout out to Dom Q, Rorik's Cat, Mystic Spoon Attack, B Urak, Discal Scaldus, Walker Standard, Patrick, User, Mr. Gorillas, Polly J, Anton Risto, Gising Yon, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, Obi, Wizard, Frickalicious, Tapis R, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Shrimpback Lay, Forever New, Choco Norris 420, FKSRG, Treble Wall Extended, 777ZK, Cousin Fat, Torque Cock, Ken, Zane, Early Bird, Oh Really, Georgios, Anthony, and Julius. Thank you guys so much.